Hello everyone, welcome yet again to another video lecture. I am Ashwin Joglekar from Resonance PCCP division. आज हम यहाँ पे क्लास 9th का second chapter of economics, that is poverty as a challenge, discuss करने वाले in a one short video. So let us quickly begin. So now this is the heading of your chapter, that is poverty as a challenge. गरीबी अपने आप में एक सबसे बड़ा चैलेंज है जो मॉडर्न इंडिया, दैट इज इंडिया आफ्टर इंडिपेंडेंस, फेस करता हुआ आ रहा है. सब्सटैंशियली पॉवर्टी में जरूर रिडक्शन हुआ है, ठीक है, ओवर द इयर्स, बट देन दैट इज आल्सो नॉट इनफ स्टिल, एंड स्टिल द गवर्नमेंट हैज इट्स challenges in front of it, various governments. Now let us begin with the first topic, that is introduction. All right, as you can see, okay, in our daily life we see poverty all around us. तो हमें अपने चारों तरफ गरीबी नजर आती है. They could be landless laborers जो काम कर रहे हैं विलेजेस में, या people living in overcrowded झुग्गीज, झुग्गी या झोपड़ीज, ठीक है, slums in cities, that is daily wage workers or child workers in dhabas. Every fourth, there's some data here, every fourth person in India is poor. हर चौथा आदमी इंडिया में गरीब है. 260 million or somewhere between 26 crore people in India are poor. India has the largest single concentration of poor in the world. तो एक ही जगह पे सबसे ज्यादा poor concentrated है because of the population we have. Poverty in India varies from state to state. Again, हर स्टेट में अलग poverty levels हैं. कुछ स्टेट्स में poverty levels काफी ज्यादा है और कई स्टेट्स में ये कम है. The rate of success for poverty reduction is different again from state to state, thus causing interstate disparities. That is, interstate differences भी हमें यहाँ पे देखने को मिलते हैं. Odisha, Madhya Pradesh and Bihar are among the poorest states of India. Punjab and Himachal Pradesh, Haryana are states where poverty has substantially been reduced, or where which are the best states in terms of poverty. All right. Now here we have some typical cases of poverty, right? That is, poverty means hunger, खाने के लिए नहीं हमारे पास, lack of shelter or lack of clean water, drinking water, and sanitation facilities, lack of a regular job at a minimum decent level. So these all constituents to what is poverty. क्या है गरीबी actually, ठीक है. तो इसमें ये various पैरामीटर्स हम इंक्लूड करते हैं कि आपके पास खाने के लिए इनफ नहीं है, आपके पास रहने के लिए घर नहीं है, रोटी कपड़ा मकान जिसकी हम बात करते हैं, लैक ऑफ क्लीन वाटर, सैनिटेशन फैसिलिटीज प्रॉपर नहीं है, एक प्रॉपर रेगुलर जॉब नहीं है आपके पास, और जिससे आपकी एक मिनिमम डिसेंट लेवल की जिंदगी चल सके. Poverty is considered as one of the biggest challenges of independent India. India would be truly independent only when the poorest of the poor or its people become free of human suffering. Now poverty as seen by social scientists. Social scientists poverty को किस नजरिए से देखते हैं या किस नजर से देखते हैं? सबसे पहला पॉइंट आता है यहाँ पे सोशल एक्सक्लूजन. अब सोशल एक्सक्लूजन क्या होता है? दैट इज दीज पीपल आर सोशली एक्सक्लूडेड. Why? Because most of the poor people you will find staying in places which again are occupied by the people who are also poor. A poor person cannot afford to stay in a posh locality or a rich locality where all facilities are being provided, because he cannot afford that. वो वहां नहीं रह सकते. So social exclusion क्या हुआ? It is a process through which individuals or groups are prevented from using some certain basic facilities, benefits and opportunities that the better off sections of the society enjoy. Like last year हमने class 8th में आपका एक chapter था about in political science portion about the water problem. Alright, तो कुछ certain areas उस city में थे जहां पे पानी पूरे टाइम आता था. अगर पानी की कोई प्रॉब्लम भी है तो फटाफट से टैंकर आ जाएगा उनके एक कॉल पे. ओके, तो वो लोकेलिटीज कौन सी थी? पॉश एरियाज थे. अब ऐसे ही कुछ लोकेलिटीज उस सिटी में थी जहां पे पानी सिर्फ शायद 1 घंटे आता था, वो भी सुबह अर्ली मॉर्निंग आवर्स में आता था या फिर लेट इवनिंग में आता था. ऑलराइट, जिसके लिए लंबी लंबी लाइन्स लगती थी. सो अब वहां पे फैसिलिटीज प्रॉपर नहीं थी, तो वैसे ही वही सोशल एक्सक्लूजन हो गया जहां पे इन लोगों को एक्सक्लूड कर दिया जाता है, ये अलग हो जाते हैं सोसाइटी से, इनको सोसाइटी का हिस्सा नहीं समझा जाता. सो देयरफॉर सोशल एक्सक्लूजन कैन बोथ बी अ कॉज, एक कॉज भी है उसका और कॉन्सिक्वेंस भी होता है उससे, किसका? गरीबी का, पावर्टी का. अब वल्नरेबिलिटी क्या होता है? दैट इज द पर्सन हु फेसेस अ ग्रेटर रिस्क in terms of a catastrophic situation. दैट इज वल्नरेबिलिटी, कौन सबसे ज्यादा वल्नरेबल है किसी चीज को लेके, डिस्क्राइब्स द ग्रेटर प्रोबेबिलिटी ऑफ बीइंग more adversely, that is negatively affected than other people when bad times comes for everybody. Suppose probably earthquake hits a region, okay, some certain city. So first of all, probably the authorities will be going and saving the lives of people who are either from the rich households or better off. Then probably the services will reach the poorest people at the last. So that is what reflects as vulnerability, कि जब ऐसी कोई कैलामिटी आती है, स्ट्राइक करती है, तो सबसे पहले फैसिलिटीज किसके पास पहुंचेंगी, रेस्क्यू मिशन से ऑपरेशंस किसके लिए होंगे, पीपल हु आर बेटर ऑफ, वेदर अ फ्लड और अ अर्थक्वेक और सिंपली अ फॉल इन द अवेलेबिलिटी ऑफ जॉब्स. तो सब अभी ड्यूरिंग द कोविड क्राइसिस वी माइट हैव सीन पीपल हु आर बेटर ऑफ और हु हैड सम बैलेंस वर एबल टू एटलीस्ट cruise this or survive through this difficult time. But people who probably were hawkers or were daily wage laborers, for them this situation, the lockdown period and other things were very difficult for them to survive for themselves also and as well as for their family. All right, moving further. Now what is poverty line? अब एक गरीबी रेखा होती है, ठीक है, which we consider. People who are above that, we place them as APL, that is above poverty line, and people who are below that, we place them as BPL, that is below poverty line. So this is we consider as a imaginary line according to which a minimum money is required by a person to fulfill his basic needs of survival. So poverty line is a method to measure poverty. अगेन गरीबी को मेजर करने के लिए बेस्ड ऑन इनकम, दो पैरामीटर्स है, इनकम और कंजम्पशन, ठीक है, या तो इनकम के बेसिस पे या उस इनकम से हम कितना कंज्यूम कर सकते हैं, हमारी नीड्स कितनी फुलफिल कर सकते हैं, दैट इज इनकम और कंजम्पशन लेवल. नाउ पावर्टी लाइन वेरीज अकॉर्डिंग टू टाइम, मे बी 60s में वो डिफरेंट होगी, 1960s में, 70s में डिफरेंट होगी, 2010 में डिफरेंट हो सकती है. और प्लेस कहां, ओके, किस जगह की बात कर रहे हैं हम, लाइक इंडिया की बात कर रहे हैं या यूएस की बात कर रहे हैं या यूके की बात कर रहे हैं. इन इंडिया द पावर्टी लाइन इज डिटरमाइंड थ्रू अ मिनिमम लेवल ऑफ फूड रिक्वायरमेंट, क्लोथिंग, फुटवेयर, फ्यूल एंड लाइट, एजुकेशनल एंड मेडिकल रिक्वायरमेंट एक्सेट्रा. तो ये कुछ बेसिक मिनिमम रिक्वायरमेंट्स हैं जिसके बेसिस पे हम पावर्टी लाइन को मेजर करते हैं इंडिया में, दैट इज इन इंडिया. ओके, एक तो हो गया आपका मिनिमम लेवल ऑफ फूड, क्लोथिंग चाहिए आपको, फुटवेयर, फ्यूल, लाइट एजुकेशन एंड मेडिकल रिक्वायरमेंट. दीज फिजिकल क्वांटिटीज आर मल्टीप्लाइड, जो ये फिजिकल क्वांटिटीज बाय द प्राइसेस इन रुपीज. तो हमें उससे एक मिनिमम अमाउंट पता लग जाता है जिससे हम बेसिकली ये कैलकुलेट कर पाते हैं कि पावर्टी लाइन क्या हो सकती है. नाउ इंडिया पावर्टी इज कैलकुलेटेड ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ अगेन डिजायर्ड कैलोरी रिक्वायरमेंट. Accepted average calorie requirement in India is again this is different for different people. That is, if you will see in rural areas, all right, rural areas में आपका calorie requirement generally is considered to be 2400 calories. वही अगर आप urban area में देखोगे तो urban area में it will be 2100 calories which is required by a person. Now this is the calorie requirement, but when we convert in terms of money, in a rural area, that is a person requires 816 rupees, all right, whereas in an urban area he would require 1000 rupees because most of the items because of the transportation and the storage or other costs are expensive in an urban area as compared to a rural area. Now why the calorie requirement is more there? Because the people in rural areas work, there's more of physical labor involved in rural areas. So in India is 2400 calories per person per day in rural areas and 2100 calories per person per day in urban areas. And on the basis of these calculations for the year 2011-12 हमने जो हम ये बात करें 2011-12 की बात कर रहे हैं, the poverty line for a person was fixed at rupees 816 per month for rural areas, 816 per month, that is per person per day, and this is also again per month, and rupees 1000 for urban areas. The poverty line is estimated periodically, normally every 5 years, and this is calculated by NSSO, that is National Sample Survey Organization, is the one who calculates these poverty lines. Again, it changes according to the time and the place. All right. Moving further, now these are some poverty estimates which we can see here, how probably the poverty has reduced also, and in India there is a substantial decline in poverty, as you can see here, ratios from about 45% in 1993 to about 37.2% in 2004. So there has been a substantial decline, and it's again on the declining trend. That is, the proportion of people below poverty line further came down to 22% in 2011-12. So that is a substantial reduction further. All right. Moving further. Now, who are these vulnerable groups as we were discussing earlier? Now, these vulnerable groups are the proportion of people below poverty line is also not same for all social groups and economic categories. So, generally they are either socially and economically we can divide them. Social groups which are most vulnerable to poverty are firstly scheduled caste people and the scheduled tribes. Now, this is on the basis of social. Second, we will have on the basis of economical. All right. अब सोशल के बेसिस पे हमें एससीज मिल जाएंगे और एसटीज मिल जाएंगे, ठीक है। अब इकोनॉमिकल के बेसिस पे आप देखोगे कि एक तो कैजुअल लेबर होगा अर्बन में, प्लस एक डेली वेज लेबर या कैजुअल लेबर होगा रूरल एरिया में, ठीक है। अब इसमें एक सबसे प्रॉब्लमैटिक बात कब होती है या सबसे ज्यादा डेंजरस सिचुएशन कब क्रिएट होती है, दैट इज अगर कोई पर्सन belongs to the SC category and also belongs to this economically vulnerable group. So it becomes a double disadvantage. That is, he or she has to face two kinds of disadvantages. First, he or she belongs to the socially marginalized groups, okay, and secondly, again economically backward as well. So among the economic groups, the most vulnerable are the rural agriculture labor households and the urban casual labor households. Now, although the average of people below poverty line in all groups in India, the average is 22, still 43 out of 100 people belonging to the scheduled tribes are not able to meet their basic needs. So this is again still a area for concern. Okay, that is almost 43 people out of 100 in the group of STs, that is scheduled tribes, are still not able to meet their basic needs. Now this is the graph which shows that, as you can see here, this group 43, that is the STs, scheduled caste, they have definitely the situation has improved, but still we need to improve it further. And average Indian poverty ratio is again 22, that is below than others shown here. Further, casual labor from rural areas is again 34, and from urban areas again non-farm is also 34. This here is 29. All right. Now, interstate disparities, that is how different states perform amongst each other in terms of the reduction of poverty. Now, in India, the interstate disparities or differences, the proportion of poor people is not the same in every state, and similarly this is not the same in every country also, which we will be seeing in the next topic about global poverty scenarios. Bihar and Odisha continue to be the two poorest states with poverty ratios of 33 for Bihar and 32 for Odisha respectively. Urban poverty is high in Odisha again. Madhya Pradesh, Bihar and Uttar Pradesh, Kerala, Maharashtra and Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, Gujarat and West Bengal saw a decline in poverty ratios or poverty. Now, what has actually led to this decline in poverty in these states are some of the programs which they have introduced. That is, in Punjab and Haryana, because of the high intensive agriculture which they have practiced, have traditionally succeeded in reducing poverty with the help of high agriculture growth rates. Kerala has focused more on human resources development. In West Bengal, land reform movements have actually played a significant or helped in reducing poverty. Similarly, in Andhra Pradesh and Tamil Nadu, public distribution system, that is PDS, have actually helped in reducing the poverty levels. Public distribution of food grains is responsible for the improvement. Now, next topic is our global poverty scenario, and below you can see the graph which is for the different states. All right. Bihar, Odisha, Assam, Madhya Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, Karnataka, West Bengal, Maharashtra, Gujarat, Rajasthan, Tripura, Tamil Nadu, Haryana, Delhi, that is UT, Andhra, then Punjab, Himachal, Kerala, and all India is 21.9 here as it is shown here. Okay. So, if you can see, probably all these states in falling in this category have all reduced or below levels below the national average. But these states here, that is Bihar, Odisha, probably Assam, Madhya Pradesh and Uttar Pradesh, have poverty ratios or percentage more than the all India average. Now, in China and Southeast Asian countries, poverty, that is about the global scenario now, poverty has declined substantially as a result of rapid economic growth in these countries and massive investment in human resource development. In sub-Saharan Africa, poverty also declined from 51% to 41% in 2015. In Latin America also, the ratio of poverty has declined from 10% to 4% in 2015. In many of the areas like in the erstwhile USSR, okay, many of the formerly which were part of the Russian Empire or Union of erstwhile USSR, have earlier at that time they did not have any as such poverty ratios, or poverty was negligent in those places, in these those countries. But now, after the decline or fall of the erstwhile USSR, poverty has again resurfaced in those areas. Now, this brings us to the main discussion, that is, what are the causes of poverty. Now, as you can see here, briefly outline what are the causes of poverty. First is the British rule, that is how the economic drain of the country happened on the policies which they had introduced over the years. Again, after 1757, after the Battle of Plassey till 1947, they always followed policies which were benefiting their economic interest rather than the interest of the Indians. So that was the first point. Second is about the rural economy, that is over dependence on agriculture or the primary sector. This you will again will be looking at in details in your further classes, that is probably in class 10th also, when we will discuss about sectors of Indian economy there. So over dependence on agriculture, and where people, that is, still are employed in India. We say India is an agriculture dominant nation, एक कृषि प्रधान देश है, तो यहाँ पे डायरेक्टली या इनडायरेक्टली काफी लोग हैं जो एग्रीकल्चर पे डिपेंडेंट है, तो वो एक अगेन रीजन बनता है. देन ऑफ कोर्स heavy pressure of population, and according to the world reports, India is again set to overcome probably China also and become the number one in terms of population. So this is also an area of major concern. Again, when we talk about this, in one more chapter, we discuss about when people as resource, right? In that chapter also we had discussed that overpopulation or population can both be a liability and asset. Now it depends on the government and the people how this population can be converted into an asset for the nation. All right, okay. Then we have chronic unemployment and underemployment, that is, people are continuously unemployed because of the lack of industries and lack of other infrastructure availability. Underemployment, that is, people how much they are able to work are not being put to full usage. Again, disguised unemployment is one of the aspect of it. Then lack of proper industrialization, no proper industrialization has happened, that is small scale sector industries apart from the large scale industries as well haven't grown substantially in India, which could actually help in reducing poverty. But now measures have been taken, and probably we will again be able to see a certain kind of a change we can expect probably in a decade or 2 decades, but let's see. Okay, some of the social factors, that is illiteracy among the people, and is one of the factors, that is still people remain poor, that is they do not want to educate their own children. Why? Because they do not see any benefit coming from education. That is why they want their children to directly be put into odd jobs, and because of that for their whole life they are always involved in some petty small jobs. And India's economic policy probably also is considered as one of the reason or which can be termed as one of the causes of poverty. All right. Now, this brings us, we have seen the problem, that is poverty as a challenge, and what is the scenario of poverty in India, interstate as well as globally. Apart from that, what were the reasons or causes of poverty over the years? Some were historical, like the British rule and other, and some are recent. And again, these all causes or challenges are such that it can be tackled with proper governance and proper involvement of the people and other social groups. Now, anti-poverty measures, that is how to tackle these things. Now, government identified, that is the current anti-poverty scheme is divided into two parts, or works on two planks. That is, promotion of economic growth is the first point, and the targeted anti-poverty programs. Now, the government saw as India's economic growth was on the rise, so was it led to the decline in poverty. So, this basically is somewhere interlinked. That is, as economic growth happens, the poverty levels show a decline. Why? Because economic growth will promote employment opportunities, will create more employment opportunities. Once more people are employed, they will earn money and they will be able to fulfill their basic needs and could be removed from the clutches of poverty. Targeted anti-poverty programs. Now, again, government initiated these programs to target a certain section who are actually vulnerable, socially excluded and poor or poorest of the poor, so that they could be again helped to come out of poverty. Now, since the 80s, India's economic growth has been one of the fastest in the world. There is a strong link between economic growth and poverty reduction. In the next slides, we will be looking at various programs, that is targeted anti-poverty programs. First here is National Rural Employment Guarantee Act, or better known as NREGA, 2005, again passed in September 2005. This act provides for 100 days of assured employment to the people every year, to every rural household in 200 districts. Later, the scheme will be executed to complete 600 and 625 districts of the nation. 1/3 of the proposed jobs will be reserved for women out of the total jobs. The central government will establish a National Employment Guarantee Fund through which these funds will be released. State governments will establish again state employment guarantee funds for implementation of this scheme. Under the program, if an applicant is not provided employment, he would be given within 15 days, they will be benefited with some or entitled with a daily employment allowance, which will obviously be less than what will be the wages, but yes, at least this is some kind of assurance for them during, 100 days is probably, if we will calculate 3 months, right? Now, most of the people are busy for harvesting or sowing in their villages for some 6 months. So, at least 3 months probably, if the government can provide them some certain kind of money by helping them do certain kind of jobs, this will help them to at least make their basic survival, that is which is essential for them, helpful by providing them with at least if not wages, if they are not provided any employment, अगर उनको employment नहीं मिल रहा तो at least उनको employment allowance या unemployment allowance दिया जाएगा जो wage से कम होगा, ठीक है, but at least इससे एक assurance मिल जाएगी that उनका survival threaten ना हो, जो basic survival है वो threaten ना हो. Alright. Next is your National Food for Work program. Again, in this it was launched in 2004 in 150 most backward districts of the country, open to all rural poor who are in need of wage employment and desire to do manual unskilled work. Manual unskilled work जो कर सकते हैं और करना चाहते हैं. Again, 100% central government sponsor करता है scheme को, centrally sponsored scheme, and food grains are distributed or provided free of cost to the states, respective states. Then Prime Minister रोजगार योजना 1993 में स्टार्ट हुई थी ये, और aim of the program is to create self-employment opportunities for the people or educated youth, unemployed youth in the rural areas and small towns. They are helped in setting up small businesses and industries. Next is Rural Employment Generation Program, REGP, launched in 1995, again to create self-employment opportunities in rural areas and small towns. A target of 25 lakh new jobs were to be or has been set up for the program under the 10th 5-year plan. Then Swan Jayanti Gram Swarojgar Yojana SGSY launched in 1999. Program aims at bringing the assisted poor families above the poverty line by organizing them into self-help groups. Again, related to self-help groups, we'll be reading in detail in class 10th in a chapter called Money and Credit, through a mix of bank credit and government subsidies. Pradhan Mantri Gramoday Yojana, that is PMGY, launched in 2000, and additional central assistance is given to various states for basic services such as primary health, education, rural shelter, rural drinking water and rural electrification. Then Antyodaya Anna Yojana, that is AAY, scheme was launched in December 2000. Under the scheme, 1 crore of the poorest of the poor among the BPL families were covered. Under the targeted public distribution system were identified. Poor families were identified by the respective state and rural development departments through a below poverty line survey. Now, earlier it was that is, they were provided with 25 kilograms of food grains made available to each family at a highly subsidized rate of 2 rupees per kg for wheat and 3 rupees per kg for rice. Quantity further was enhanced from 25 to 35 kgs with effect from April 2002. The scheme has been further expanded twice by additional 50 lakh BPL families in June and in August 2004. 2003 June and in August 2004 another 1 crore families were added here. So, which makes the total, that is, with this increase, almost 2 crore families have been covered under this scheme of Antyodaya Anna Yojana. Now, moving to the last section of our chapter, that is assessment. Now, as you have seen previously when we are talking about the various anti-poverty programs, you would have seen many of the programs were targeted for rural poor, and also many of the programs were similar in nature, right. So, that is what will be there in the assessment of poverty alleviation programs. First is lack of proper implementation. जो उनको implement करना है, जिस तरह से implement होना है, वो proper ढंग से नहीं हो रहा है. जो ग्रुप्स को टारगेट करना है तो वो राइट टारगेटिंग भी नहीं हो रही है, ठीक है. स्कीम्स की ओवरलैपिंग हो रही है. एक स्कीम होनी चाहिए और एक ही स्कीम प्रॉपर्ली सबके लिए होनी चाहिए, बट वो अगेन एक स्कीम आई और उस पर ओवरलैपिंग दूसरी स्कीम आ गई, तीसरी स्कीम आ गई, तो ये स्कीम्स की ओवरलैपिंग. नॉन डिलीवरी ऑफ बेनिफिट्स टू द टारगेटेड ग्रुप्स. तो एक्चुअली जिनको बेनिफिट होना चाहिए वो बेनिफिट नहीं हो रहे, शायद कोई दूसरे सेक्शन बेनिफिट हो रहे. तो अगेन दीज आर सम ऑफ द असेसमेंट that is of anti-poverty alleviation programs, that is to remove poverty from India, and why still poverty has not been completely eradicated from India. Now, poverty in certain numbers is present in most part of the world, so India is no exception here, but at least we can bring down the percentage to much further. The challenges. Now, what are the challenges which we face as a country ahead? In India, poverty has certainly declined in India, but it still remains India's most compelling challenge. Okay, a challenge which again we need to take on. Poverty reduction is expected to make better progress in the next 10 to 15 years, and this can be achieved by higher economic growth. As we saw that as economic growth increases, there's certainly a reduction in poverty. Increasing stress on universalization or universal free and elementary education, declining population growth, increasing empowerment of the women and economically weaker sections of the society will probably make India will help India in reducing the poverty ratio to a much more further level. So, this is all with the chapter here, poverty as a challenge. Thank you for watching the one shot video on poverty as a challenge.